Hey, this is Sandy.
And Randy.
And we're here on AT Corner.
Being an athletic trainer comes with ups and downs, and we're here to showcase them all.
Join us as we share our world in sports medicine.
Welcome back to another episode of AT Corner. You know what's coming up, babe?
Valentine's Day.
That's right. So what better way to kick off the month of February than talk about dating as an AT?
We've got a lot of stories.
Yeah, we had a pretty good response.
Yeah, it took me a really long time to go through them, actually.
But before we get rolling, we actually got 2 reviews on Apple Podcasts.
You want to read them?
Yes, I do. The first one was submitted by Kayla. Just what ATs need. This podcast is a great balance of education and entertainment for anyone in athletic training. As a newly certified AT, it has allowed me to become a better informed clinician and has kept me entertained on my way to work.
I love reviews. These are so fun.
I'm very glad that we are an entertaining group here.
Thank you, Kayla.
And then this next one is by dstevs26. Thank you. Thanks for creating this podcast, guys. You are making an impact on our profession, and I thank you dearly for that.
And we thank you dearly for our review.
Yes, that's the biggest thing. I think we have to thank our audience because, you know, they're the ones that make this community so fun.
Oh, our community is so awesome. I mean, what better group of people than ATs?
I like to think so. I mean, we could be a little biased, but...
Anyway, let's start talking about dating.
Yes, the big enigma for athletic trainers is how to date when you work in athletics.
And when it's COVID time.
That makes it even worse. I think we're ready to jump in.
So actually, this suggestion was sent in by Whitney, who is actually also dating another AT.
That story sounds familiar.
She said that she met her boyfriend Miguel at a cross-country meet, and we actually didn't like each other. I even bought him coffee, and he didn't drink it. So I was like, yeah, I don't like him. But then we began working a lot together, which we became friends, and now we're dating.
That is interesting. I feel like that is how some stories go. At first, the other person's like, meh, and then, which makes the other person, meh, and then just over time.
Yeah, well, I think that, you know what this reminds me of is just like, what is that thing called in psychology? Like the
exposure effect or something like that?
Yeah, where you just see something over and over again and then you just like it because you're familiar with it.
That's true.
I mean, it sounds like they're making it work.
And as ATs, that is the biggest hurdle, is just making it work.
Yeah, honestly, guys, we heard from like 98% of you. Dating is tough as an athletic trainer, so we're going to break this episode up into
why.
A couple of parts. First, we're going to talk about what makes dating tough as an athletic trainer, which I think you guys will all resonate with. And then we're going to talk about how to have a successful relationship. And you guys, if you're new and you don't know, Randy and I are actually both athletic trainers and we're married. So I know I'm so sorry. We're not really ones to talk about how dating's hard. However, we are going to be really helpful in success tips. So
yes. And also, I mean, date nights are hard to come by for us.
They are. And we'll tell you some of our struggles that we had early on too.
Yeah, let's roll.
We asked on our Instagram, what makes dating tough as an athletic trainer? And I think of all of our topics, this one was literally blown out of the water.
And it's pretty obvious when you think about what are the major roadblocks for dating in the AT world.
What do you think is the top answer that we got?
The changing schedule.
Oh yeah, I think that's obvious. So schedule was a huge one. We got things from like crazy, it's changing, the travel.
Oh, I forgot about the travel.
I mean, Randy used to travel every single weekend. Unknown schedule, last minute changes. We all know that. I mean, I've shown up to a basketball game where no one else did because the game was canceled.
I forgot about that.
Sometimes we work opposite of 9 to 5, especially like when I was working nighttime football practice.
Big time. And then also, don't forget, sometimes you're working 6 to 7 days a week.
Yeah, that's not uncommon.
Sometimes 8 days a week. That's right. Athletics creates a new day of the week just to get more practice in.
So we actually got our MVP Nicolette back.
MVP Nicolette.
And she said when she first started dating Jake, he literally said, anytime you tell me what time you'll be off work, I'll add an extra 2 to 6 hours to that time. That means if I told him I'd be off at noon, he would either think I was going to be off at 2 p.m. or 6 p.m. And the worst part is most of the time it was accurate.
Yes. So Sandra used to joke about me when I'd say a time that I'm going to be done. She would add an hour of that time.
At least an hour.
But now the tables have turned.
Now it's me.
Yeah. Now I assume, when she gives me a time, it's about an hour before the actual time.
I mean, it's true. You never know when like an emergency situation is going to pop up, or
you never know.
Right now, you never know how long it's going to take to calculate COVID testing prices.
That's very true.
We also got a lot of people saying that there are lots of missed dinner plans.
I mean, if you make a plan ahead of time, that doesn't mean athletics is going to care, and you never know what's going to happen. Like all of a sudden, if there's an emergency that's time consuming, you could be there a few hours.
Or, double overtime. What? How many?
Or the sports that don't have a clock.
Oh.
Those ones are rough.
That's dangerous. Like volleyball?
Baseball, softball. At least softball has a mercy rule.
That's like back to our superstitions. Like you can't say anything about like if you're in the third.
Oh, you never say.
In the third game of volleyball.
Never say anything about pace of play.
Or done in 3. You can't say done in 3. Then you'll definitely be done in 5.
But I do have to say, I feel like most people would agree. At a certain point, if your team's struggling, you don't care who wins as long as they get done in straight sets. So, like, if your team's down 2 sets, you really don't want them to do well anymore. You're just like, let's get out of here.
Yes.
So, hopefully you lose in 3, and then all of a sudden your team picks it up, and next thing you know, you're in the 5th set.
That's how it goes, like, every time.
Every time.
Another thing that people said is it's really hard to meet new people. I mean,
I could see that.
So I actually did ask for some people to tell, like, how did you meet your significant other? Because especially during COVID, a lot of people were saying they're trying to maintain a social responsibility. They're trying to keep their circle small. I mean, that makes it really difficult in and of itself. Time. And not to mention when there's not COVID, we already had trouble meeting new people.
Yeah, schedule, is tough. Even when you're not working a crazy schedule that day, you're probably still tired. You don't really want to go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, so Gabby L said, my boyfriend is actually a basketball coach for another high school. I met him on a dating app. I think I might have mentioned that I was an AT, but we didn't really talk about work much on our first date, which is probably a good thing.
That's definitely good.
It's definitely helpful that he's a coach because he understands what I deal with at work, so it's easy to talk to him about it still. He even takes my complaints to help his school's athletic trainer, which is actually one of my coworkers.
Oh my goodness, that's funny.
Our conversations about COVID and professional sports go back and forth a lot. He has the mentality of a player, and I have it more as a healthcare professional when it comes to that. He does ask for clarification a lot or my thoughts on pro injuries as well, but I always remind him what athletic trainers do in a high school setting, or more so what we're allowed to do, is way different than what resources pros have.
Oh, absolutely.
We keep going back to that with all this COVID stuff. We're trying to figure out how to get our teams back, and a lot of the coaches are like, but other places are doing this, like universities, like, oh, D1s are doing this, oh, the pros are doing this, and it's like, you can't compare.
Yeah, it's not the same. And I do want to go back to the story, in fact, that they didn't talk about work on the first date. That's good. I feel like on our first date, I did not talk, surprisingly, about athletic training a lot.
I don't think we did, but you know what? I also wasn't even an athletic training student when we met.
That's true.
So I think that also plays a role in it.
But people who know me would be very surprised to know athletic training didn't come up that much on that date.
I heard that before me, literally all 100% of Randy was athletic training. They had to kick him out of the clinic.
That's very true. Very true. See, so this next one, I see the title already. Exhaustion after work. See? I called it.
Yeah, so this one we got a lot too. I mean, athletic training itself is a tough job if you're working 40 hours. If you're working more than that, which is more likely, I mean, we're out. It's the whole reason why I like athletic training is because it's not a cubicle.
Yeah, true. You get to go outside.
And your day is literally different every time you walk in.
You never know what athletes are going to do or say.
No, and the demands are just so tough. So I think that in general, finding someone who can understand that the demands of your job are a lot,
mm-hmm.
I mean, really with any healthcare profession.
Oh, definitely.
So Gretchen said, dating can be tough because on top of long hours, days, and weeks, I'm pouring a lot of my energy into the personal and professional relationships at work. That leaves little for finding and building new relationships in a significant other outside of my workplace.
Yeah. I mean, even from the simple standpoint, even if you're not working a long day, like you said, you work outside and the sun can just drain you.
Unless you live in like a cold place.
But it gets warm every now and then. That sun can be draining.
Yeah, the sun definitely drains me.
Big time. We don't like the heat in this house.
No, but I love the sun.
It's a big catch-22 here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of back to what you were saying about work demands. The biggest thing is people outside of athletics and then outside of what we do is they don't understand our job. They don't understand the intricacies that are part of athletic training, and most people just think of their job as like, oh, well, once I go home, like I'm done. Like I don't have to think about work or anything like that. You really can't do that, one, as an athletic trainer or a healthcare professional. It goes back to what we talked with Allison about. When we go home, we're still thinking about, our kids and our jobs somehow. Not everyone has to be like super nerdy like me, because like I just got a new book the other day. Really excited about it. I already started reading it. But that's the thing, is we really care about our job and we really care about our patients, that even outside of work, we want to do our best job for them. And we want to make sure we're doing everything we can, whether that's just even talking to someone about a case or looking stuff up. But that takes time out of work.
I was joking with a couple people because everyone was like, every time I date someone new, they have no clue what we do. And so I have to explain to them what we do. And I'm like, the more people we date, the more we spread our profession.
That's true. I feel like the NATA might need to jump on this campaign.
Or like speed dating.
Yeah, for the general population to understand athletic training.
So fun. So we actually got an anonymous story about an athletic trainer dating another healthcare professional. And they said, I'm a senior athletic training student graduating this spring. Our athletic training class has 8 of us, so we've always had the rule of never dating each other just because it would always be weird if anyone were to break up.
You know what's funny is my class only had 8 as well.
I know, that's really cool.
I know, it was pretty dope. We had a good time.
I actually wonder what sorts of sizes people have. Like, what's the biggest cohort?
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
like
I know
smallest.
there's some programs they have a lot.
Really?
Yeah, I know there's a few that have a solid amount. I know that was very descriptive on a number.
Yeah, well, I think mine's like, I don't know how big is, but I felt mine was like 20.
I think some programs have more.
I think they do.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've all talked a lot how dating is hard as an athletic training student just because of our class loads and clinical hours. We all agreed that AAT's best chance to find a happy relationship is with someone who is most likely in a medical profession.
Agreed. I think that's accurate.
They understand what it's like not always being able to leave work at work, the long hours, and the mental toughness it can take to be a clinician. I mean, remember when I was at Stater Brothers, like, buying food, and my coach called me and was like, someone dislocated his finger. What do I do?
Yeah, you see, that goes back to it. Just because we're at home doesn't mean work just stops. You don't have the luxury of like, oh, this person's calling. I can, ignore it and worry about it tomorrow. No, what if they're calling because they need to go to the ER?
Yeah. Recently, I started dating a nursing student who works as a CNA at a nearby hospital. Our relationship works because we understand our hours are never certain. We always get to talk about our passion for our profession, and we both understand each other to agree. And if anyone were to have a heart attack or some medical emergency, they would most likely be making it to the hospital with multiple rounds of CPR.
Nice.
I mean, that's definitely a positive. I think that, like, Randy could definitely keep me alive if I was having...
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And plus, them being together is a safety for the general population. Whenever they're out and about, you have 2 people ready to go.
I know. Some of our friends always say, like, because we like to go rock climbing a lot. I'm sure we've said that on the show, but...
Mm-hmm.
Some of our friends are like, oh, we're never going climbing without you. Just in case we fall or something.
So this next one's by Rebecca V. I've been with my boyfriend now for almost 4 years. I've been a certified AT for almost 3. We met in undergrad, and he was an AT major as well. We became close friends, and it later developed into a relationship. Even dating another AT was difficult due to our schedules and how tired we always were after practices/games. He is now in PT school, and I am the head AT at a high school. I'm grateful to have him because he understands my love for this career. He supports me and knows the struggles of being an AT, but he also knows the rewards from it as well. Having understanding and excellent communication is definitely crucial for dating as an AT. I also think it's important to find someone who admires your passion for your career, helps you get through the tough days, and likes to hear about all the good days. I think we can't highlight it enough, and this is what happens when I tell people about dating as an AT is you need someone who just understands.
I think that's the biggest thing. And honestly, the theme throughout all of these stories is if the person who you're dating does not understand what you do, it's just going to frustrate them.
Big time.
Every single time even something little comes up.
Yeah, big time. And I mean, we've even noticed it where, like, when you were in your program and I was already certified, we didn't have time to do date nights. I mean, even now as working professionals, date night is hard to come by, but it does make it tough.
I know that we're not in like the tips yet, but just a little tidbit tip. Something that we do is for Christmas, we ask for gift cards for food places.
They're the best gift ideas.
Because on a random night that we're free, we don't have to worry about finding the money to go treat ourselves to a date night. We already have it paid for. We just have to, once we're free, which is rare, but once we're free, we can just take that gift card, go out. The place is already chosen. We don't have to decide where we want to eat. We just pick a card.
Also, shout out, thanks, Mom and Dad.
Yeah, thank you. So anyway, that's like something that we do. There was a time in our careers that we really only got to see each other like once or twice a week because Randy was traveling 3 to 4 days out of the week, and I was traveling 2 hours for a job most of the week. And it was just very difficult to get our schedules to line up, but we just had to sit down and understand that, like, this is temporary, 1, and 2, we understood that part of the job was being there for your athletes.
Yeah. But it is always nice to hear about the other person's day. Like, I genuinely get excited when Sandra's excited about something or she had an interesting case. Like, I love hearing about her good days, and it's pretty cool. It's another way to be close without like actually going on a date and like sharing that experience with your significant other.
So another athletic trainer who's marrying another athletic trainer, we've got another AT marriage over here. This person's anonymous. They said, it's nice because they get it. They understand the work, the importance, and the craziness of it. We even get to work together sometimes.
That's fun.
But I'm glad it's not all the time.
We have actually gotten lucky to work together occasionally.
We have, just a little bit.
Very little.
It also helps that we have the same mindset in terms of being involved professionally, and they're both very involved. But since we work at 2 different settings, we sometimes have disagreements on how professional situations should be handled, especially when it comes to being available to coaches, patients, and supervisors.
But you see, the differences in philosophy make you better.
Yeah, Randy and I are completely different clinicians. We think it's really funny.
And I also think it is a good learning opportunity because I know she makes me better by realizing there are other philosophies and I can be better and I'm not always right.
Yeah, he likes to be right.
I do love being right.
Something that we got from a lot of people is that you have to make your significant other a priority.
Big time.
As a profession, we're a hard profession to date because we love our jobs too much. This is from Steph, and I like stopped reading every other message when I saw this, and I was like, I need to respond to this right now because this is so true. I mean, in order to be an athletic trainer, you have to be obsessed with your job.
Oh, big time.
And I feel like that rubs people the wrong way if your significant other doesn't realize that that's literally a necessity to be an athletic trainer.
You really have to love the job to do it.
But on the other hand, you also have to make your significant other a priority because in order to make a relationship work, your significant other has to be number 1.
Big time. Absolutely. You need that boundary. You know where the line is to draw, like, hey, you know what? I'm done for today. Like, obviously, if an emergency thing happens, that has to be taken care of. But also that self-control of like, hey, you know what? I'm not doing this today. It can wait because we're doing something. I think that's very important.
I mean, we learned that early. I remember one time we were moving and Randy was in the morning. He had a cross country meet the day that we were moving, and the girls had their 6-pack of water bottles, and he was like, "Oh, I'll take them home and wash them."
She shut that down real quick.
Yeah, someone else who's not moving can figure out how to wash bottles.
But you see, learning experience.
Yeah, and where our priorities are. I mean, someone actually mentioned that it's tough when your significant other gets jealous of how close you are with your athletes.
That is definitely someone who doesn't get it. Like, that just doesn't understand the job, to where you get jealous over the relationship that you have with your athletes / patients. Like, yeah, that's just someone who just really doesn't understand the job.
Well, too, I mean, I'm going to, again, play devil's advocate. I think that there are some people who are more insecure and that could lead to more jealousy. Whereas, like, I don't think that you and I have any sorts of jealousy problems.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, that could just be a person or a personal thing. And maybe they just shouldn't date an athletic trainer.
Definitely. So, how do you make relationships work?
We have lots of tips on that. So, our first one is actually investment on both sides. I feel like we've already said this. We've already hit this home. But do you want to read this?
So this one was sent in by Kat. I found someone who knew nothing about my job, but invested time and energy into learning about what I do, not just me as a person, while we dated. Now he's my biggest supporter and a huge AT advocate in everyday life. I got lucky.
And they just got married.
Yes, they did. And again, you see, it just goes back to that understanding and that commitment to understand the profession and end up becoming a big supporter.
So this next one's actually something that we do.
I'm just bad at calendars. I'm bad at putting things down.
So Cassie C said that she has a shared calendar. We do this, however, I just found out that Randy doesn't use our shared calendar. Or he doesn't look at it.
Not as often as I should.
I literally just found that out this week, so we're gonna...
I'm bad at calendars. I have it up here in the noggin.
This is how I found it out. I was like, hey, can you put that in the calendar? And he's like, yeah. And then he's like scrolling through his phone looking for the app. And I was like, this is interesting that he doesn't know where the app is. And then like finally once he found it, he had to log in.
Whatever. Okay, whatever.
Although I will say we also have a really, really big whiteboard calendar in our room.
That she sets up.
Yeah, but like it's really nice to look at.
Yes, it is.
So Cassie said, hey guys, as far as tips on dating as an athletic trainer goes, my experience is coming from the other end. I'm married with a kid. Okay, a kid and athletic training.
Ooh,
and
that's real tough.
Being married.
That's
a
level 10.
Lot. That you're on level 10, Cassie.
Level 10 difficulty.
Oh my gosh. This is even harder. And she's currently in her AT grad school program.
Oh, you remember that.
I could not imagine going through my grad school program with a kid. Cassie, you're on level 1000.
Difficulty.
One thing that has helped us is having a shared calendar where we both write what we have to do. So like work meetings, AT clinicals, classes, things like that. So we both know if we have to work out childcare or who's making dinner or when I have to prep dinner for the boys. Oh, that's cute.
The boys.
When I started the program last summer, we talked about what we were each willing to sacrifice and what were absolutely non-negotiable. For him, it was the opportunity to go to the gym daily, and for me, guaranteed alone time to study.
Nice.
We constantly communicate our always changing schedules and really plan out time together, which is even harder with COVID.
Oh, big time.
See, that's...
COVID makes everything worse.
Yes, I think we can all agree with that. I think that communication, I don't know why that has not even really been brought up until like this point, but I feel like communication is the biggest thing as an athletic trainer to make dating work.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm always letting you know my schedule minute by minute at least, you know, if something changes, or I'll at least put the caveat as, hey, today might be a longer day than usual. Depends on patient load.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like, I would rather like right now, Randy and I have been dating for enough years that like we understand our communication. But I think that it's super important that if you're just starting out and trying to figure out your communication, it's better to over communicate, because I would much rather know if Randy may have a late day rather than showing up somewhere and then him not showing up.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have access to his phone because he's dealing with like an emergency or something. I would much rather him tell me ahead of time, like, hey, I'm like, there's a possibility that I might be late tonight.
Yeah.
So I really like what she was talking about, what's absolutely non-negotiable, because that sets on the table, this is my limit. This is my boundary.
Yeah.
And that's the bare minimum of what needs to happen. I mean, I've heard about these things called weekly check-ins. I know some people do it. We don't do it because I think it's too sappy. Like, I don't really like talking about feelings like that. But basically, like, I think it's like every week you sit down and you say, okay, this is like something you said that hurt me, or this is something like that I really enjoyed that you did.
Yeah.
Or, you know, something like just it's another form of communication. I think it's helpful. It's a starting point for people who like maybe don't have that communication set up.
Yeah, it's something to get the ball rolling.
You know, something that we use is the Enneagram.
Oh, man. This is an Enneagram house, let me tell you.
Literally, I don't think there's a day that goes by that we don't talk about the Enneagram.
What is the Enneagram?
So if you guys have heard of like Myers-Briggs, it's kind of similar, but not really. Like basically the Enneagram, it's not, I wouldn't call it like a personality test. It's more like, it's not what your outward personality is. It's what your motive is.
It's like understanding motivations, right? Like what drives someone.
Yeah. So like what someone's like basic fear is and what someone's basic motivation is. So like I'm an Enneagram 3 and Randy's an Enneagram 2.
Strong 2. Strong 2.
So then we can like using that we can understand like Randy as an Enneagram 2 does a lot in order to be seen as valued. And so sometimes I have to remind him like, hey, like don't neglect yourself because you're putting me ahead of you because you already know that I value you. So reiterating that, and that's really helpful. And then
as a 3, Sandra is very driven by success. And I have to remind her that success doesn't define her. So if she's working on something and it's not going her way, or even if it does go her way, that's not defining her as a person.
Which was definitely really hard during COVID. So I think that the Enneagram, if you guys haven't heard of it, we have so many resources. And eventually one day we'd love to there's a lot about Enneagram in healthcare. So we'd probably love to do an episode on that. Probably not anytime soon.
Basically what she's saying is she's going to do the education episode on that one.
I'm really obsessed with the Enneagram, if you can't tell.
Again, this is a strong Enneagram house, but it has been very valuable. We've learned a lot about each other. And we've also learned a lot about people in general and how to communicate with them, and then understanding why they do what they do.
I mean, actually, if you guys really want to talk about the Enneagram, it actually helps at work too, because like if I know where someone, like basically it helps me understand the motivation behind someone's actions. So like if I get a good feeling about someone and what their Enneagram number like may be, I may get a better understanding of like how they're going to react in the situation, or how I can see the situation from their perspective. So it's been really helpful between the two of us. I mean, honestly, Randy's like way more chill than I am, and like if I do anything that like would spark something, he just like flat out like puts out that little spark that would make me like start a fight or anything. So, I mean, it all depends on, like, your relationship. Because, I mean, you could just be two people there are some people who just, like, need to have yelling, screaming matches, and that's their communication. Like, that's just how they have to get it out.
Yeah.
So it all just depends on how your communication works.
Everybody's different, and everyone's relationship is different.
And we can't tell you how to do that. But you know what communication's really difficult that I really am impressed by? Is a long distance.
Oh, definitely.
So Ibayar actually said that, she got married in December. but they've been dating for 8 years. That's a long time. We met in high school where I was an athletic training student, so he learned how my schedule can be filled with practices and game days. I went to college for 6 years to get my certification, so we did long distance for those 6 years. Oh my goodness. That is crazy. We learned that communication is super important in our relationship. We would FaceTime every night, even if it was for a few minutes the day before a college football game, and he knew I needed to sleep to function the next day. We would try to see each other once a semester, typically my off week from traveling with whatever team I was assigned. He learned that he couldn't surprise me because I was always busy with athletes or studying. It was hard, but we made it.
That's true. Like when I would travel, going back to the communication, is I'd let her know what the plan was for the evening. So, the team will probably have dinner at this time, or that's the game plan. And then I'll do treatments for this long, so I should be done around this time. And then we'll probably FaceTime afterwards. So we definitely did that when I was traveling.
Yeah, we'd definitely use FaceTime a lot. This Ibayar, this story is such an inspirational story that they were able to make it work after that long distance.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy.
As an athletic trainer too.
Yeah, seriously. Speaking of long distance, it did come in handy one time when I was traveling and I had an athlete with lice.
Oh, yeah.
I had to call her up that night just to double check my Gen Med book to make sure I was heading the right direction. Because I never thought I'd have a collegiate student athlete have lice. You remember that?
Yeah, I was like your one call away library.
I was like, can you please grab my Gen Med book and send me a picture of this page?
So funny. Another thing that I heard a long time ago that we try to live by is that you should always plan something to look ahead or forward to.
Definitely. And we took that to heart when one of my biggest mentors, Julie, was saying, you need to celebrate things.
Oh, yeah. We used to especially as an Enneagram 3, I'm always looking forward to what's the next thing I can do? And when she sat us down and said, you guys do so much, you have to sit down and realize and appreciate the stuff that you've already done and how far you've come. So we've taken a lot of extra celebration. We celebrate everything now.
All the time.
We got 2 reviews, time to celebrate.
Time to celebrate, yep. And I think that's been really, really key for us and awesome to put things in perspective. And it gives us an excuse for date night.
And you guys, I know this might seem really hard to do with ever-changing schedules. I know that was the very first thing we said in this episode that was the hardest thing to do as an athletic trainer. But the most important thing to remember is when plans change, you have to make new ones.
Definitely.
I mean, this also goes back to our newly certified episode, though, when I don't know if we said this in the episode, but I know we put it in our Facebook group. You can take a day off. Your athletes will survive. And that's so hard for athletic trainers to learn. I mean, I think in all the time that Randy and I have been dating and the time that we've been married, I think I've only seen you take one day off. I don't think you even took a day off for us to move.
Nope.
But your athletes will survive.
Yes, they will. They will. They may cry, but they will make it.
Yeah. Also, planning something ahead of time is kind of like putting a light at the end of the tunnel, because whenever anything gets tough, you can remember that, you know what, tough is temporary. It's always temporary. And whatever plans you have ahead of time, that's what you're working towards. That's what's getting you through. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. Even with all this COVID stuff, that's what I was struggling with, is what's the light at the end of the tunnel? But once you find that, once you plan something, once you put something together, adapt to your situation, that makes a crazy difference.
Definitely, for sure.
And then lastly, I thought it'd be really cute to sandwich our episode with starting with Whitney and ending with Miguel.
Ooh, I like what you did there.
Do you want to read his?
So Miguel said, you're a team, set goals together. And that is very true, because we are in this together and you guys are on the same team. So remember to support each other and, like you said, set those goals together, something to work towards.
And I think no one knows team better than an athletic trainer.
That is very true. Very true. constantly a part of a team, no matter what.
Yeah, in all aspects of life. You can't get away from it.
Nope. No, you can't.
So, you guys, if this makes you remember a story, we totally want to hear it in our Facebook group. And if you post it in our Facebook group, you'll also be entered into our giveaway.
Hey.
We already have a few posts up, so we're waiting. I think what's today? So our giveaway ends on February 10th.
I need to hurry and get my post in there.
You are not going to win.
Aw,
it's not
man.
allowed.
Dang it.
If you're not a part of our Facebook group, also this was a little bit of a confusion that I didn't realize. I guess some people are just following our Facebook page, which I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. I don't even pay attention to our Facebook page. It's just basically a copy of our Instagram. I really run things from our Instagram, and anything that's posted on Instagram gets posted to the Facebook page. So I really don't pay attention to that. Our Facebook group, however, is actually, it's called AT Corner Community. So if you liked the page, that's great. You get to be in the know for all of our Instagram stuff. But the Facebook group is the part where actually all of our listeners like come and post and comment and engage and all that stuff. So if you want to join the group, you can head over to facebook.com/group/atcornerpodcast, or you can, I think it's linked to our Facebook page. It's called AT Corner Community. You can also just search for it. And it's also, if you don't want to do any of those things, there's also a link in the description below.
Nice.
And then if you guys are new, we do every other episode as education or stories. Obviously, this was our February kickoff story episode. So next week, we're going to be doing education, and we're bringing back interviews. So we're doing an interview next week.
Yes, it should be an exciting one. We are talking to Dr. Joe Jaime. He is a chiropractor ATC in the Inland Empire area, going over evaluation philosophy, process, and wherever else we take this conversation.
Yeah, we're really excited for that. We heard a lot of you guys are going to be struggling with evaluation when you're coming back, so we thought it would be perfect to bring him on just in time for that. And then we're probably going to have some more stuff on our Instagram. And do you have anything else to add?
Nope, I think that's perfect.
Well, happy Valentine's Day, you guys.
Thank you for helping us showcase athletic training behind the tape. Bye.